Thank you for joining me one more time in another episode of a Jamaican Alzheimer's story. Now, last time I touched a little on caregivers and some of the mistakes that we make as caregivers. Now, today I'm going to be talking about another aspect of caregiving that actually I wasn't even aware of until my husband pointed it out to me. Now, when you are caring, especially when you are caring for a close relative or family member, such as parents, grandparents, and so on, did you know that you start grieving long before they actually pass away? Yes, you do. Now, I didn't realize that I was grieving, but several years ago, maybe about 7 years ago, I found it so difficult to deal with my mother's various episodes, because when someone has Alzheimer's, I can tell you, their whole personality changes. In my mother's case, for example, she was a very proper lady who was full of poise and grace, well spoken, soft spoken. But with the onset of Alzheimer's, my mother changed into a completely different person. She became boisterous sometimes. She became irritable easily. She became aggressive sometimes. There were times when she would cry for the littlest things, and all of those things would sometimes become overwhelming for me. And I found that there are times when, after an episode with my mother, she would drive me to the point where I start crying. Sometimes I would go to sleep. I would fall asleep crying because I just couldn't deal with all of what was going on. I found myself asking, what happened to my mother? This is not my mother. I would fall asleep saying to myself, or sometimes I would say to my husband, I want my mother. This is not my mother. How am I going to deal with this? And every time there's another episode or a new episode, I found myself crying. Sometimes if she went through 1 week of drama, it would be 1 week where I went to bed crying, because this every day is a different person. My mother would cry for little things like, for example, if she left the water running maybe in the kitchen and the sink ran over with water. Instead of calling our attention to it, that would be an episode of her just crying excessively. And there was another time when she was upset because she thought that I had taken away something that belonged to her. And her reaction to that was just to hit me with a bag or a belt or anything that she found in her hand at that time. So I would find that for days I would just cry. This is not my mother. What has happened to my mother? I want my mother. What is happening? I'm not going to deal with this well. And so I didn't realize it until my husband said, did you realize that you're actually grieving? You spend so much time crying. You spend so much time crying for the person she was. And that was when it dawned on me. So think about it. We grieve long before we lose them. And I don't know if that is the reason. When my mother died, it took me months. Actually, I didn't cry until the day of her funeral. I think maybe I had cried out all of my tears. So these are little things that we don't even realize when they happen to us. So they are happening. So think about it, go back into your memory and think about some of the things you did and how you react to them, and you realize that you're actually grieving. So thank you so much for joining me in this another episode. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and see you in another episode. Bye.